And this is perhaps the most important Marian apparition, well, maybe in history. And it's not Our Lady of Fatima. Now, I'm not making a claim about one objectively being more important than the other. Of course, the consecration of Russia, all the problems, or all that comes along with that is extremely important. However, if we look to the apparition of Our Lady of Good Success, at least for the times we're living through right now, it seems like this is the apparition that we really need to be looking at. Fatima, Guadalupe, Lourdes, La Salette, all super important. And to be honest, except for Guadalupe, there's definitely a lot of similarities between them. There's a continuity, which is interesting. But specifically, when we look at Our Lady of Good Success, we find prophecies in there which are not only, they're not only predicted in a general sense, they're predicted in extremely precise ways where, what was prophesied happened for real, which is incredible, which just lends itself to its validity as well. So I'm going to share my screen here with you, and we're going to look at some of the prophecies of Our Lady of Good Success that give insight into our time. So this is an article from Tradition Family Property. I'm not associated with them, but this is a great article. It's been on the internet, as you can see there. If I make it a little bit bigger, you can actually see it's been on the internet for 23 years at this point. And I've also, not that I don't trust them, but I've double checked the original message of Our Lady of Good Success, and these are correct translations, correct citations. Here's the first one, which I think is amazing. It says, the Pope's infallibility will be declared a dogma of faith by the same Pope chosen to proclaim the dogma of the mystery of my Immaculate Conception. This is Our Lady speaking. He will be persecuted and imprisoned in the Vatican through the usurpation of the pontifical states and through the malice, envy, and avarice of an earthly monarch. That is not just true in a general sense. It is exactly what happened to Pope Pius IX. If you know the history of the Papal States and the proclaiming of the Immaculate Conception, the First Vatican Council, all these kinds of things, these are all related the same time period. And Our Lady was speaking, if we go back to the apparition here, she was speaking in the 15th and 16th century. Well, actually, technically, I think that's an error. I think it's the 16th and 17th. I think it's 1500s and 1600s. I get that mixed up too, but it's 15 and 1600s. In any case, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible that this happened to a T. Another one. Unbridled passions will give way to a total corruption of customs because Satan will reign through the Masonic sects, targeting the children in particular to ensure general corruption. Again, when did Freemasonry begin? It began officially in 1717. There were inklings of obviously movements towards something like that beforehand. But this idea of being a Freemason as part of a Freemasonic organization, this is made official in 1717, almost 200 years after the first apparition of Our Lady of Good Success. There's no possible way that Mother Mariana, who was the recipient of the messages, could have known that. Continuing. She says, unhappy the children of those times, seldom will they receive the sacraments of baptism and confirmation. As for the sacrament of penance, they will confess only while attending Catholic schools, which the devil will do his utmost to destroy by means of persons in authority. As a former Catholic school teacher, I can tell you this is exactly the case. Kids would never go to confession because their parents wouldn't take them to church. They would go to confession sometimes if you convinced them to, and, once a year maybe, during the religion class, if the teacher wanted them to go down when the priests came to do confessions in the library or something like that. This is not just, again, a general prediction. This is 100% exact. You know how she says, unhappy the children of those times. You hear my baby girl in the background. Yeah, unhappy the children. The children are unhappy and they're not going to confession. She says the same will occur with Holy Communion. That's easy to see how that happens. And she says there will be so many enormous and public public and hidden sacrileges. This is striking. One sec. Who's this? So this is striking as well. This idea of having, sweetie, major sacrileges. Because this was not a time where you had the Novus Ordo liturgy or communion in the hand as a general principle. This was, I mean, there would be no reason to think that there would be enormous sacrileges, because nothing that was part of the structure of how the church operated would have given way to such an assumption. Again, a striking prediction. Clementine, having fun? She says, in those times, the sacrament of extreme unction will be largely ignored. Many will die without receiving it, being thereby deprived of innumerable graces, consolation, and strength in the great leap from time to eternity. That's true. Most people don't call for a priest anymore when they die. The sacrament of matrimony, which symbolizes the union of Christ with the church, will be thoroughly attacked and profaned. Masonry, then reigning, will implement iniquitous laws aimed at extinguishing this sacrament. It will make it easy for all to live in sin, thus multiplying the birth of illegitimate children without the church's blessing. Again, perfectly striking. This is exactly what's happened. Right? You don't understand anything, which is good. Continuing. Oops, she just touched my mouse. Secular education will contribute to a scarcity of priestly and religious vocations. Yeah. I mean, put your kid in Catholic school or public school and see if he wants to become a priest or if she wants to become a nun when they come through it. I doubt it. The Holy Sacrament of Holy Orders will be ridiculed, oppressed, and despised, for in this both the Church and God himself are oppressed and reviled, since he is represented by his priests. Yeah. I mean, we live in an age where you can basically be some sort of, you know, Hollywood celebrity, and you can show up to an awards show dressed like a priest and, you know, be accepted for it, and doing something, you know, disgusting. So yeah, talk about ridicule. It says the devil will work to persecute the ministers of the Lord in every way, working with baneful cunning to destroy the spirit of their vocation and corrupting many. Those who will thus scandalize the Christian flock will bring upon all priests the hatred of bad Christians and the enemies of the one holy Roman Catholic and Apostolic Church. This apparent triumph of Satan will cause enormous sufferings to the good pastors of the Church, and to the supreme pastor and vicar of Christ on earth, who, a prisoner in the Vatican, will shed secret and bitter tears in the presence of God our Lord, asking for light, sanctity, and perfection for all the clergy of the world, to whom he is the King and Father. Again, there was a period of time where the Pope was a prisoner of the Vatican, and it looked like the revolutionary forces had basically taken over Italy for good. I would think that that prophecy itself would have been fulfilled. Yeah. Okay. It says, unhappy times will come wherein those who should fearlessly defend the rights of the church will instead, blinded despite the light, give their hand to the church's enemies and do their bidding. But when evil seems triumphant, and when authority abuses its power, committing all manner of injustice, and oppressing the weak, their ruin shall be near. They will fall and crash to the ground. This is, I mean, I don't know if there's a particular exact time, but this calls to mind, in my opinion, hey, Clementine. This calls to mind, in my opinion, the time just after the Second Vatican Council. Maybe you guys want to see her. There you go. Just after the Second Vatican Council, when the church actually told countries to take the kingship of Christ out of their constitutions. Spain, which was a Catholic enclave. Everyone says Franco was some sort of terrible fascist. Yeah. They say that about everybody they don't like. I'm not saying he was perfect, but, you know, there's a good chance Franco's in heaven. Compare that to the people we have now. In any case, you know, Spain was a Catholic country. these countries, a lot of them, these European countries, Christ was in the constitution or the monarchy or whatever it was. Oh, hello. And the Vatican, I mean, Rome literally said, you know, no longer do this. This was the will of the spirit of the Second Vatican Council. And this corresponds exactly to the prophecy. But there's hope. And this corresponds definitely with the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. She says, then will the church, joyful and triumphant like a young girl, reawaken and be comfortably cradled in the arms of my most dear and elect son of those times. If he lends an ear to the inspirations of grace, one of which will be the reading of these great mercies that my son and I have had toward you, we shall fill him with graces and very special gifts, and will make him great on earth and much greater in heaven. There we have reserved a precious seat for him, because needless of men, he will have fought for truth and ceaselessly defended the rights of the church, deserving to be called martyr. So again, here is where we go from general to specific. So this Marian apparition is in Ecuador, and Ecuador had a time of Masonic infiltration, and also there was a president named Moreno, Gabriel Garcia del Moreno. Am I correct on that? Gabriel Garcia Moreno. And he himself was the fulfillment of this, and he was actually martyred. Now, this doesn't mean that this apparition is only geared towards Ecuador, because there's a regional and there's a universal element. You know, just like, for example, when we read in the Gospels, you know, there's an example that might be about a particular element that has to do with something going on at that time, but we learn from that a principle. Or, for example, when we read the prophecies of the apocalypse, there's very specific references to places and things, but we know this will come at the end of the world, even if those places and things are no longer there to be called that, and that, you know, other things are set in their place. So there's always an aspect of specificity and generality to an apparition, and I think this is one of those as well. What else does it say, Clementine? What does it say? It says, at the end of the 19th century and throughout the great part of the 20th century, many heresies will be propagated in these lands. Yep. The small number of souls who will secretly safeguard the treasure of faith and virtues will suffer a cruel, unspeakable, and long martyrdom. That's happened, yeah. There's more to it, and to be honest, I'm going to put a link to this in the description, but I recommend that everyone does a little brushing up on Our Lady of Good Success. Because Clementine's had enough. There you go, sweetie. Because I think this is probably the most important Marian apparition. Can you see her on the camera? Say hello. We named her Clementine after one of the titles of the Virgin Mary, O Clemenso Pio Dulcis Virgo Maria, O Clement. Okay, just had enough. Anyway, I'm going to do some more videos on Our Lady of Good Success, because with all the talk about Marian apparitions, this is one that I think deserves to have a better look, because I think it's probably the most important prophetic Marian apparition of our time. What do you think? What does she think? You want to go to bed? Time for a nap? Okay. This has been the Kennedy Report. Until next time, God bless.
Well, I just wanted to talk about one more thing. You've probably heard the expression, buy locally. However, some things you just can't get locally. So if you're going to buy something you can't get locally, you want to try to buy from somebody who shares your values. Well, if you enjoy what we do at this channel, thank you very much, and we share the same values. Well, here at the Kennedy Report, we've actually embarked on a very interesting endeavor. We've procured frankincense oil from the Middle East. Maybe you've bought essential oils before. I know I have. My wife likes them for making remedies and making the house smell nice. Well, the problem is with those companies is that usually they're owned by people who are part of really strange New Age movements or false religions. So by supporting them, you're supporting something that you're not in line with. Well, if you click the link in the description, you can see where we have our sacred frankincense oil, and we also have a lanolin balm for sale. There are numerous reported health benefits for frankincense oil. We're not making a claim one way or the other here at the Kennedy Report. That's not our place. But if you're into these things, you know what I'm talking about. And it should be noted, we actually procured some of the best oil in the world, and we only have 70 of them in stock, and they're going to go quick, and we're not sure if we're going to get them again. So if you like the channel and you can't buy these things locally because you don't happen to live near a frankincense manufacturing location in the Middle East, then at least you can buy them from somebody who has the same values as you. Click the links in the description to find out more, and thank you.